Hello, this is Michael Cage. I'm checking out Scoop B Radio.
Scoopy Radio in your peripheral, in your area code, everywhere you want to be. I am Brandon Scoopy Robinson, joined by a familiar face, Michael Cage. Brother, what's going on?
Nothing much, man. Good to be here. Good to see you as well.
Man, we go back.
We go way back like car seats.
1997.
Wow, it's long. Yeah, you were a little kid. No, I'm telling my age. No, you were a grown up. You were big. You were a grown man. No.
We're the same height, almost the same height now.
Yeah, that's right. You've grown up, man. You know what? I'm proud of you.
Thank
Can
you.
I say that?
I'm proud of you
Okay
too.
for me to say
Yes.
I'm proud of this guy.
Thank you.
He's come a long way.
Thank you.
And you're doing great. And
Thank you, brother.
thanks for having me too.
Of course, man. I would have it no other way. You have always been health conscious. You were into the juicing.
Yes.
You were the power forward center force that the Nets needed during that Sam Cassell, Kendall Gill, Kerry, Kittles, Keith Van Horn era. What do you remember most about that time with Calipari?
I remember just, I was on the back nine of my career, being able to sit with a great group of guys that would listen. Mm-hmm. Because, those gentlemen you just mentioned, Kerry, Sam, all great people. Sherman Douglas, really good people. Mm-hmm. And I got a chance to just mentor them, because they were so impressionable, like a sponge, especially Kerry Kittles.
Yes.
And just sitting and talking with them on flights, and John Calipari looking at me going, "Hey, how do you coach in this league?" I go, "Patience. This is not college."
Yes.
And I remember a lot of those times where you were able to just have that downtime with those really great individuals.
You and Xavier McDaniels were the elder statesmen on that team at that time. And the Calipari Chronicles was interesting to me because that was pre-social media.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, not only was he the head coach, he was the vice president of basketball operations. I remember you had, I think, Don Casey, Jenny Lynham, Hal Whistle, and Rich Delatry, I think, was the athletic trainer.
Wow, yeah, Rich, wow.
Yes.
Let's get way back there with bringing up that name.
Yes.
Great guy, yeah.
Kerry Kittles, to me, is fascinating because that 96 draft was full of future Hall of Famers, whether you're talking about Steve Nash, whether you're talking about the late Kobe Bryant, whether you're talking about Stephon Marbury, Allen Iverson, and more. I remember they even created the Kerry Kittles rule. One sock up, one sock down. He had to wear a uniform. But that locker room was just full of a lot of people. And then they ended up trading Cassell and bringing in Stephon Marbury. That NBA era to me was almost like on the cusp of the end of Michael, but the acceleration of Kobe. That 96 draft class, what did you remember about that youthful talent?
Well, I like what you're saying because it was a transition period. When I first came in the league in '84 in that draft class with Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, Charles Barkley, Sam Perkins, John Stockton, all Hall of Famers. It was a transition period where Bird, Magic, was still there, but there had to be something behind it. Mm-hmm. And now you're talking about 10 years later, there has to be something behind it. Mm-hmm. And that draft class was another transition period that came into the NBA. Hip hop was more on the front burner, and we were all in love with the connection of the music, the dress, the whole involvement of that era with that draft class moving forward. And I thought that the NBA has to reinvent itself. And it's hard to do that when you're following behind Magic and Bird, Michael Jordan's era, Olajuwon, Isaiah Thomas, all those championship teams, and in the end comes this young brass, really young. I mean, it wasn't like these kids were, 3-4 year college players. A lot of them were straight out of high school, like you're talking about with Kobe Bryant. So there was a lot of potential. There was a lot of promise. There was a lot of expectations that don't always get met, that were met with that draft class.
You were drafted in 1984 by the San Diego Clippers, and you had a Jerry curl.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what this guy's talking about. Uh-huh. This is me. No.
You came out of San Diego State.
Yeah.
And to me, I know you lying because I saw the card which you guarded Magic Johnson and you had the Jerry curl.
Right.
Who inspired you to do that?
Sign of the times, because
Okay.
just like we wore the baggy jeans that was
course.
in, then we went to the straight legs.
Yeah.
You know, we went from, you know, the Jerry curl, you know, to the high-low afro.
Yeah.
You know, the buzz cut. We did a lot of things like that that were, like, I thought really kind of emulated style. And now, believe it or not, that Jerry curl was in style. It was just in style. I may have held on to it too long, but, you know, I'm just saying,
Right.
when I first started, it was hip. and AC Green, you got to throw AC Green in there. Don't just throw it all on me.
We're talking about you right now.
Oh, well, okay. Then since you put me,
But tell me something. You as a member of that San Diego Clippers team before they moved to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
What was it like playing for the Clippers in San Diego back then?
you know, here's a good question. Here's the thing. I was drafted as a San Diego Clipper. Never played in San Diego. 2 weeks later, I got a phone call, says, you need to find an apartment in L.A. I said, what for? They said, we just moved to L.A. So my first year in the league was the Clippers' first year in Los Angeles. And that was kind of how that whole thing, like Russell Westbrook. Now, I'm the TV analyst for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Of course, Bally Sports.
Right, it's right, Valley Sports. Russell Westbrook was drafted as a Seattle Sonic. Never played for the Seattle. That same summer, they moved to Oklahoma City. I was kind of one of those catalysts in that kind of, I don't know, I guess if you want to say, nostalgia or however you want to, describe players that are drafted by one team but never played for that team, even though that's the same team in another city, or that team moved to another city. It's a completely different team.
I got a question about San Diego Clippers going into the Clippers. Did you get a chance to watch the Clip series on Hulu?
I watched a little bit of it. Yeah.
What did you think of it?
I thought, you know what, it was accurate. I mean, I was there for 4 years, and I never saw a lot of that stuff, but I heard about it.
Okay.
That what was going on, and really, I really thought that, it was handled a little bit too late, but it was handled.
Sure.
Because once it came to the forefront, I thought that Adam Silver did a great job of handling it. And that's why I really love that, him as our commissioner, because he's gotten us through some tough times like that. Whether it's in, dealing with ownership, whether it's dealing with marketing, whether it's dealing with TV rights, whether it's dealing with players, situations on the court involving players, off the court involving players. And that's a big challenge.
Fair. And I want to go back to that because you talked about the Sonics and then the transition into Oklahoma. You as an analyst with Valley Sports. Listen, the Thunder had the low-key moves of the offseason and bringing in both Alex Caruso as well as Isaiah Hartenstein. What did you make of those two moves?
First of all, it's hard to make something happen like that without giving up something. Because everybody, I think, whenever you hear about trades, one of the biggest things they want is assets. Okay, we'll give you, we can do this and do it. And it's hard to make a trade, from what I've learned, because of, these intangibles. And it doesn't always work that way, man, where everything lines up. You don't have to give up a whole lot, but you get a great, person, which is, I think, is important to this organization, the culture, a guy that fits in, and then on top of the player that he is. And I'm speaking of Alex Caruso right to this moment. He used to be with the Oklahoma City Blue, which is the Thunder's G League team.
Under Coach Mark.
That's right. So there's a relationship there. And obviously, whenever you can get a player of Isaiah Hartenstein's caliber, it's tough to do. And it's tough to make that move these days because the rules don't allow it to always happen so smoothly. Got to give credit to our GM, Sam Presti, for being a wizard to have that happen and then us to get a caliber of player like that. But I think also, too, what you talked about, the success we had last year, if I'm a player in the league, I'm saying to myself, I like what this team has done over the decades. Not just in the last year, not a Johnny-come-lately. I like what they've done consistently. And we got back there consistently by drafting and making smart moves. And these two guys, the acquisition of them this summer is no different. They're going to fit in fine, and they know what they're getting into. They're not right out of college. We have Shai, we have Lou Dort, we have Chet Holmgren. We have all of these young, gifted players that these guys will complement.
And you got Jalen and Jalen.
Yeah. Oh, don't bring me up, J-Dub, man. Yeah. That kid's going to be special. And then Jay Will coming in. We didn't have, that's to my point. We didn't have to give up a player of that quality to get a player of that quality. So a lot of times, you can take one step forward but take two steps backwards. And I think that's one of the things I've really seen with this organization. They've just made some smart, calculated moves that, sometimes it's about chess. Okay, I'm making a move to make a move to make a move. And sometimes it's about checkers. I can just make one quick move, when it's there. And it's not always worked that way. So, it'll be really, really interesting to see how these two guys will just get mesh and woven into what we already have. I'm really excited about that.
Did Shai Gilgeous-Alexander get robbed of the MVP award?
In my opinion, yes. I thought he deserved it. I thought he had the same stats as Michael Jordan did when he won his MVPs. If you look at him, I'm not just throwing stuff out there
to see if it sticks. You're telling the truth.
Look at his numbers, man. What he did on the defensive end for us was remarkable. Led the NBA in steals. Top 3 in scoring. That's amazing. Most players don't have the energy to play on both sides of the floor like that. He's really a unique player. He can play in the mid-range. He can shoot the 3. He's an excellent ball handler, very unselfish. And he's one of those guys, too, who commands a lot of attention, and he has a high IQ to put the basketball where it needs to be put. And that's really unique. And he doesn't, Shai is very humble, man. He'll never say that I thought I should have won the MVP. He says, hey, you know what? Just got to keep working. I really admire the character and the fiber of a guy like that, especially being so young.
Michael, who talked the most sugar honey iced tea when you guarded them at your position?
At my position? That's easy. You see him every night on TNT. Charles Barkley. Yeah, that guy's, just talks. And you know what? We did it back then, and it was like, it was par for course.
Right.
If you didn't, you're going to get more of it. So you just have to throw it back, but they just keep throwing more. Charles was great at it, man. He was a master at trying to get into your head in that regard.
Can you share any personal Charles Barkley stories on the court and stories, anecdotes, and things that y'all said on the court to each other?
No, but I can tell you Larry Bird.
So it's funny you say that. Xavier McDaniel told me
Yeah.
that one time when the Sonics were playing against the Celtics, Larry Bird scored on Sean Kemp and said he was the best MFer that ever came out of Indiana.
Yeah, yep. I was on that team, and that was my story.
Did he say anything after that?
Down here.
Did he say anything after that?
No. It was just, what can you just Larry Bird, Larry Legend.
So what else did he say?
You just look at him. I mean, and he did exactly what he said. Look, I'm going to go to this corner, and I'm going to make a 3, and I'm going to come down, I'm going to make another one. And he did it, and we looked at him, and okay, this is unusual, because nobody can foresee what's going to happen and then make it happen when you're trying to stop it from happening. That's how unique Larry Bird was. I mean, people don't give him credit. He's a great trash talker. I loved it. I love the fact that he could talk trash. Now, we had later on, a few years later, when I was playing with another guy named Gary Payton, that was another trash talker. And I just said, hey, you know what? It's par for course. I get it. Now today, that's considered, maybe a technical.
Yeah.
So that's the gamemanship that we had back then and the camaraderie amongst each other. Super, super competitive in that regard.
Brother, you've been a wealth of knowledge. I know you got to run, but thank you so much for your time and for being you.
Always a pleasure. Good to see you. You're looking great. And you know what? I'm proud of you. I got to say that one more time.
Thank you, brother. I'm proud of you, too.
Thank you.
I'm in.
All right.
Thank you.